Everyone, it is Tuesday, August 11th at about 5 minutes to 10. And my name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on Sqanning, S-Q-A-N-N-I-N-G, which is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and ultimately mental calm, which is something we could all use. I know I could use it. So, I come here to these sessions to practice like I always do. I practice on my own and I practice here. When I come here, I practice with you. Basically, the technique does not change. It's designed for simplicity, which means it shouldn't take much to learn it, it shouldn't take much to remember it, and it certainly shouldn't take much to practice it. The toughest part about it is that you practice. I'm a firm believer in practice. I wish I had studied music, because had I been a pianist, I would have practiced obsessively, and I like to think I would have been very good, but I never did, and it's too late. But I do believe in practice, and especially techniques like this, which are taking us out of our comfort zone and into areas we don't quite understand. You can get really good at those sort of things through practice. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube about a person that decides they want to learn violin, and then they videotape themselves like every day for 365 days, and then they compress it into this like 3-minute video. It's awesome. It's awesome to see what you can achieve through regular practice, because they end up being quite a proficient violinist. So I feel the same way about Sqanning. I have found that in my life, the number one most beneficial practice to my health and well-being, physically, emotionally, mentally, is to be able to relax on demand. Think of the money and time we invest in relaxing. The masseuses, the therapists, the chiropractors, the vacations, which we want to relax. We have a tendency to move towards tension, what I call contraction, and we desperately need to relax. We sense it instinctively, we feel it, we know it. But it's not easy to achieve, and it requires a certain amount of discipline to learn how to relax. You'd think, well, I want to relax, it would feel good. Why can't I just do it? If it feels so good, well, I'll talk about that. Why would we be so resistant to something that ultimately feels so good? Well, mainly because of fear. Mainly because relaxing means letting go of our guard, letting down our guard, letting go of control, letting go of our attachments to external processes. So when we begin the process of relaxation, we're usually very resistant, because we're changing our state of consciousness and we're not sure where it's going to go. Even though on a logical level we know when I relax I'll feel better, the process physically feels dangerous. On some level you feel like you're letting down your guard. Through practice, through the regular practice of relaxation techniques such as mine, there's a million out there, but this is mine, you will begin to not necessarily find it easier to begin, but you will begin to understand the payoff. So you will have the discipline and desire to keep going. The only advantage someone like me, who's been practicing this for years and thousands of hours, has over someone, let's say like yourself, who's just beginning, is that I have a clearer picture of where I'm going to end up. So even if I don't want to practice, I know that if I do, I'll feel good. So I make myself practice. If you can make that decision and just say, look, feels weird, but I'm going to do it anyway, you're done. You're on your way. So this is called Sqanning. This is my technique for relaxation, which ultimately relaxes the body, frees the emotions, clears the mind. How do we do that? Through the incremental release of muscular tension. It's that simple. All we're going to be doing over the next half hour is doing this. Make a fist, release. That's it. We're going to practice incremental muscular release. Simple to learn, tricky to practice, and you'll see why. This is based on the theories of a man named Thaddeus Golas, G-O-L-A-S. He wrote a book called The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, in which he states that the entire universe is made up of two basic processes: contraction, squeeze your hands together, that's contraction, and expansion, release. The entire universe. It's crazy. We can explain the entire universe by breaking everything down into either being in a state of contraction or expansion. That includes us, our body, our state of mind. We are either in a state of contraction or a state of expansion. Generally speaking, when you are overly contracted, you feel bad. When you're expanded, you feel great. So, want to feel better? Learn to expand. Want to learn to expand? Use the muscles as a metaphor. Muscles can only contract or release. Contraction, expansion. If we learn to release the musculature, we will have learned to expand our consciousness. That's the whole fundamental premise of this technique, and that's all we're going to do. So let's get started. The first thing we do, and this is kind of traditional, those of you who have done this with me before will see this is familiar. If this is your first time, we're going to basically set up what I call a binary metaphor for our very state of being. We're going to set up a representation for us. It's as if I was doing a drawing of myself that I could study and look at and analyze and hopefully fix. In this case, that binary metaphor is our hands. We're going to take our hands and we're going to squeeze them together. So go ahead, squeeze your hands tight. So that's contraction. That's it. That's the one of two processes in the universe. We're representing it by the squeezing together of our hands. This is contraction. See what that feels like. You're watching yourself now. This is you. This is me. Now, contraction is the stuff of life. We use our muscles, our strength. We make decisions. We form words and ideas. We build buildings. We write books through the process of contraction. We put together materials, thoughts, ideas to form something that helps advance our agenda, to help bring us closer to our goal. That's contraction. But, as you can see, when you hold this contraction for a while, it begins to feel uncomfortable. You actually begin to be counterproductive. You feel restricted. You feel tight. You feel uncomfortable. You feel, maybe, bad. So, if we are in an overly contracted state, we've taken our contractions too far, which is where we're at when we're nervous, when we're having obsessive thoughts, when we're worried, when we're anxious, when we're exhausted, when we're fighting with people, when nothing seems to be working. When we're overly contracted, the solution, do the opposite. Expand. 3, 2, 1, release. Now see what that feels like. I've taken all the pressure off. Now, this is you expanded, floating free. No muscular tension, no expectation, no demand. Drop your hands to your lap. Take a deep, deep breath. One more. And another. Now sit for 15 seconds in complete stillness and silence. So if this is your first class with me, you have now learned the art of scanning, the preliminaries of scanning. We just moved ourselves from a contracted state to an expanded state in very subtle ways. But subtle counts in this process. Subtle is everything. The smallest change matters. So we were contracted. We released. That was a form of expansion. Muscles can either contract or expand. They can't do both. In the universe, you can't contract and expand at the same time. You can either contract or expand. When we started to expand, we stopped contracting. We released all the muscular tension. We saw what that felt like. Pressure's off. Dropped our hands. Took 3 deep breaths. Breaths are also expansive. Physically, expanding your lungs. Conceptually, you're not contracting, you're expanding. So we took 3 deep breaths. And then we sat for 15 seconds in stillness and silence. Stillness is the opposite of action, which is a contraction. Silence is the opposite of words and thought, which are also contractions. So we've done 3 preliminary steps to begin this process. That's how we always begin. It's traditional for me and my technique. This is the way I always begin. So what have we done? We've moved the dial. If in life we vacillate between contracted and expansive states, that's what we do all day. We go from contraction to expansion. And we become overly contracted. We've just nudged ourselves in an expansive direction. Released our hands. Took 3 deep, expansive breaths, then sat in stillness and silence. That's it. We've begun. Let's do it again. And note the changes that you feel, the slight, subtle changes you feel. I like to lose, when I was in acting school, I used to walk around with a thesaurus. A thesaurus will tell you 10 different ways to say the same thing, If you say quick, you can also say fast. You can also say rapid. And I used to love words. I love words. And I used to look for descriptive words to describe my actions as an actor. It helped me clarify where I was going in a scene. I'd always look for the right word that described the scene. So I'm asking you to do the same thing here. Find words to describe these different states of being. How does it feel to be contracted? As I said, tight, restricted, uncomfortable, rigid, limited. These are all words which describe contracted. So squeeze your hands tight. And again, this is the way we start off. This is the way we identify this process, by describing it, by understanding how we feel. A lot of scanning has to do with tuning into how you feel. How am I feeling right now? Awareness. Awareness of your state of consciousness, your state of being. If you're aware, then you can change. Squeeze tight. So you're contracted. Keep squeezing. Tight. That's you. That's you when you're anxious, upset, obsessed, worried, trying too hard, feeling unsuccessful, concerned about it, fighting your circumstances, being in a state of denial. This is contraction. You know, it happens in life. We become contracted as a result of contracting. We become overly contracted, but you can change that, and that's what we're indicating here. That's what we're proving to ourselves right now. 3, 2, 1, completely release. Drop your hands, take 3 deep breaths. Expand. Expand even further. 15 seconds of stillness and silence while you adjust to this change in your state of consciousness, a more expanded state. Now, I like to start with these 3 steps because when I am generally in a contracted state, and I would say I'm in a contracted state more than I am in an expanded state. It's just the nature of life. I'm working hard, I'm trying, I'm thinking, I'm worrying, I'm all day long. When I'm in a contracted state, I tend to be locked down in that state. When we come into a state of contraction, we generally hold on tight to it. Contraction is, by definition, a holding of sorts. So to pull ourselves out of a contracted state can be challenging. It's like trying to pull a hibernating bear out of his cave. It's like, no, I'm comfortable where I am. I want to stay where I am. I'm safe. We feel safe. Even if it's uncomfortable, we feel protected and safe in this contracted state. So we use these initial steps, what I call the preliminary steps of scanning, to shock ourselves out of our contracted state. We set up this metaphor. This is us. And then we instantly release it to feel the difference. We drop our hands. We let go of all contraction just to see how it feels to be slightly expanded, free, without obligation. I can breathe. I'm relaxed. I have no compulsions anymore. I'm just being. Then we take 3 deep breaths, another way to shock ourselves out of this state of contraction. Another. The deeper, the better. Then we sit in 15 seconds of stillness and silence to send a message to our body and our consciousness that we have stopped contracting. We are now going to begin the process of expansion. And we sit with that feeling and we identify it. How does that feel? Still, quiet, comfortable, peaceful, open, aware, still, calm, better. So that's how we begin. So now we move into the second phase of scanning, which is the nuts and bolts of the process, which is actual muscular release, incremental muscular release. Now, why incremental? Why not just release the muscles? Because the muscles are in a held position. We tend to be in a held position. We tend to hold this low level of tension, muscular tension, all day, every day. Even when we're sleeping, we're kind of, you have levels of tension deep within you that you're not even aware. That, I did a process called Rolfing once, which is a sort of deep tissue massage, which works on the premise that we have tensions from our childhood, moments when we were either shocked or upset about something where we kind of went into a gripped, held mode that we've never let go of. We've never let go of. We're still carrying these tensions deep within our body. And we do this deep tissue massage to work out those ancient tensions. Well, it's true. As I've taken myself through this scanning process, many times I'll do a session for like an hour, and I will scan. I've scanned my body. That's how I call it, scanning. I will discover a pocket of tension somewhere in my body I didn't even know was there, somewhere in my neck. And I'll suddenly I'll be able to let that go, and I'll go, wow. So we are now going to begin the process of incremental muscular release to explore where we're holding our muscular tension. We're going to find these pockets of tension and release them. We're going to expand. Ultimately, by expanding the muscular tension in our body, by releasing all possible muscular tension in our body, this will infuse our entire being with a sense of expansion. It will free our emotions, and it will clear the mind. If the mind is a muscle of sorts, and I like to think of it that way, holding tight to obsessive thoughts, feelings, ideas, plans, regrets, anger, those sorts of things. And you begin to infuse your body with a sense of expansion and release, the mind, just like all the other muscles, begins to open up and loosen up. And all those obsessive thoughts that were being held on to just float away. And you'll find as you're partway into this process, you might find yourself sitting in one of these moments of stillness and silence and thinking, I'm not thinking anything. You know, someone says to you sometimes, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind? And wouldn't that be great just to say, nothing? Wouldn't that be great to have a clear mind? So that's what begins to happen. So let's begin. Take a quick drink of water here. Hold on. If I told you our goal was to release all the muscular tension in our body, you'd say, well, where do I start? Exactly. What I've done is broken down the body into 8 muscular zones, so we can get specific and work on these specific zones. And this effect is cumulative. As you begin to release the muscle tension in one area, you add another and another and another, and it starts to sort of build up this momentum. At some point, you will find that your entire body just relaxes. It gets ahead of you. It says, oh, I know where you're going with this. I see where you're going with this. Yeah, I'll just let go. Once it's been convinced or persuaded that this process is safe, feels good, and is actually beneficial overall, it will give in to this release. You will face an initial resistance, as I discussed, because we hold our muscular tension as a security blanket. The body is reluctant to let go, so you'll feel resistance. You might not feel anything. That's another form of resistance, so you must be persistent to overcome resistance. Zone 1 is the face. On my count, I want you to release the muscular tension in your face. 3, 2, 1, release. So let's try it again before we talk about it. The face. 3, 2, 1, release. Now you notice that there's a sort of drooping appearance to my face. As I let go, I'm effectively turning off the power to my muscles. If this is my muscle, the power's on, I flip the switch, and the muscle just goes slack. So that's what we're doing. We're turning off the power to the muscles, so the muscles of the face. 3, 2, 1, release. You feel that slight drooping, relaxed sensation. That's what we want to induce throughout the entire body. It's as if our entire body, every muscle was a fist that we are going to relax. The face, 3, 2, 1, release. And the top of the head. Now you go, I don't know what the top of the head feels like. How do I relax the muscles in the top of the head? Well, just try it. You can direct the focus of your attention to any part of your body you like. You can put your focus on your toe, on your big toe. You could put the focus on the pinky of your finger. This is the actual technique we're getting better at. This is what you will get better at through practice. Focusing your energy, your attention on specific muscle groups and literally controlling them. Learning how to release. Now, if I said tense the muscles of the top of your head, you go, okay, I can do that. Tense the muscle of your face. I can do that. We can tense. We're very good at contraction. We contract a lot in life. This is effort. We're not so familiar with or comfortable with expansion. We just don't think to do it. Whenever we need to solve a problem, our go-to position is contraction. I will do, I will act, I will think, I will say, I will take action. I will contract. We're very comfortable and familiar with that process. The thing that people aren't aware of, what I've learned through this technique, is that expansion can be just as effective in solving a problem. Expansion can make space for a solution. When you are contracted, you are solid. Solid, solid can't come together. When you expand, you have space to merge. You have space to make room for solutions. So this technique, practicing this technique, begins to familiarize you with the concept and understand the concept that expansion is equally valuable as a tool in life. It has equal value to contraction. We just are unfamiliar with using it. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. How many times have you been in a situation where you just couldn't figure out the solution to a problem? You've tried, nothing, nothing, nothing. You get to the point where you literally give up. You just say, I just can't. Wait a minute. Now what just happened? I gave up. I expanded. I let go of all contraction. I made space for the solution to come into my universe. You can get in your own way. Expansion. Top of the head. 3, 2, 1. Release. That happened to me just last night. I had a problem which I just was literally furious about. I couldn't solve. I couldn't work it out. I couldn't fix it. I was just angry. So angry because this is an important issue. And I looked at it this way, this way, this way, this way. I said, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like a chess game. I saw 5 moves ahead. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to be the result. Nothing. Nothing but dead ends, solid walls. I finally gave up. I said it's an unfixable situation. I resigned myself to the fact that I was faced with an unfixable problem. And I let it go. And in the morning when I woke up, I knew what to do. And it was crazy that I had expended so much energy and anger and frustration trying to solve this problem, actively do something, contracting, when in fact what was required in this particular situation was that I get out of the way, expand, make room, allow for other possibilities, allow for the fact that this situation might just be what it is, and accept. And my perspective on that problem completely changed, and it literally solved itself. Expansion is a very valuable tool. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. Back of the head. Again, you may not understand what that feels like. I've never relaxed the muscles at the back of my head. Okay, I'm going to start. Think about it like a rubber band stretched across the back of your head. On your count, 3, 2, 1, you're just going to let that rubber band just kind of the tension ease, and you'll feel a softness come over the back of your head. Everything's softening. A contracted muscle is hard. An expanded muscle is soft. I tell the story how I met a martial artist once, and I'm a fan of the martial arts, watching, the sport. And I had seen the guy on television the night before defeat a much larger opponent. And he was a pretty big guy, but, he won against this much larger opponent. I ran into him the next day at Universal Studios, of all places. And I rushed up to him and I shook his hand. I said, man, you were great last night. What a great fight you had. And he was rushing. Oh, thank you very much. It was a difficult fight, but yes, I was very fortunate to have won. I said, dude, you surprised us all. And he shook his hand, and his hand was soft like a baby's. His hand was soft like a baby's. Now, you'd think a martial artist would have tough, hard, strong, rigid hands. And his hand was soft. And I said, dude, you seems like such a gentle giant. You're such a soft soul. He says, well, you must be centered and at peace. You must be at one with yourself to fight successfully. And I went, holy shit. This guy went into the ring against this giant of a man. Not tense, not rigid, not ready to go to battle, but relaxed and ready for whatever came his way. So being in a relaxed state of mind, expanded state of mind, can just, as I said, be a very effective approach to life and its problems, because you're more available, open, at peace, calm, relaxed, effective. Zone 4 is the neck. 3, 2, 1, release. And again, what we're developing here is a sense of what it feels like to release a muscle. We know what it feels like to contract, but we're not familiar with what it feels like to release. We just don't do it. Again, our go-to position in life for solving problems, for facing life, is contraction. Get up in the morning, you have 10 things you have to deal with. Okay, I got to think, I got to do, I got to write, I got to post, I got to say, I got to move. Contraction, 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 contraction. That's fine. That's how we operate in life. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when we become overly contracted, we literally tie ourselves up in knots. We become so tied up in our own rigidity that we are frozen. We can't move. We become ineffective. What this technique suggests is that we try to learn to be balanced, not get rid of contraction. No, no, no. Realize that expansion is equally valuable. Incorporate that equally into our day as a form of opening up, releasing, finding our center, finding ourself, and just feeling better. That's all we're doing, balancing. So if you don't know right off the bat what it feels like to relax and release your neck, it's because you just don't do it much. So that's why we're here. That's why we practice. That's why I practice every single day. My dream, my goal, I'm 65 years old. My goal is that in the next few years, by the time I'm, let's say, 70, I can just induce a state of relaxation on demand. I know for a fact, for myself, and I suspect that for many, many people, being in a relaxed physical state not only calms your mind and frees your emotions, but it makes you better, more effective at literally everything. Your work, your relationships, your approach to your health, everything is better when you are relaxed. I know it. I've experienced it. I love it. It's why I share it. I think it is a wonderful solution to many of life's problems. So if you're not comfortable or familiar with what it feels like, it's only because you haven't been practicing. So we practice. The neck, 3, 2, 1, release. And it's just, you're looking for a sensation of, 3, 2, 1. The face, 3, 2, 1. Top of the head, 3, 2, 1. Now, as I start to do that, I always feel an impulse to breathe. Taking tension away, removing tension from your body, frees your body to feel, to expand, to breathe. Take those breaths. If you feel an impulse to take a deep breath, take it. It's a confirmation of this process. It helps the process, and it is a confirmation of this process. I always say, if you take nothing away from these lessons, take away this. If you are in trouble, psychologically, emotionally, physically, if you are in a state of overcontraction, and you can do nothing else but a few simple steps, take a series of deep, deep breaths, followed by 15 seconds of stillness and silence, followed by another series of deep, deep breaths, followed by 15 seconds of stillness and silence. Cycle through those steps 5, 10 times. I guarantee you, you will have moved the dial. That's the fundamental basis of this technique. Expansion, expansion, expansion. On a fundamental level, breathing is the most basic, expansive step we take every single moment of our lives. We don't breathe enough. We don't breathe deeply enough. But that's why we become contracted. So those two things alone, if you have additional time, start moving into the specific muscle groups. It takes time. It's not an instant fix. And you are responsible. You are in charge. Unlike when you take a shot of whiskey or smoke a joint or pop a pill, which that does it for you. You don't have to do anything. So it's simpler in a way. You have to actually apply yourself with this technique. The benefit of doing it yourself, number one, you're always in control. You can have it anytime you want. I don't have to go to a bar. I don't have to find a dealer. I don't have to find a doctor. I don't have to drive to a masseuse. I don't have to go to a therapist. I don't have to pay anyone. It's totally in my control. That's the number one thing. The second thing that's great about learning how to do it for yourself is that it's incredibly self-fulfilling. It's a wonderful feeling to know that you have a tool within you by which you can help yourself at any given moment. You don't need anybody or anything else. Now, of course, it's wonderful to get people's help in life. But at those times when you feel like it's just me, I have to fix myself, or that's it. I'm facing a very difficult situation. I got to pull my shit together. I got to find some balance and peace and calm. It's wonderful to know that you have a technique within you, a tool, a very simple tool. We're talking about, at base, just deep breathing and stillness and silence. That can get me back to myself. I always tell the story about how a policeman once told me that there's a secret switch on every car that very few people know about or use that can prevent you from ever being in a car accident. And I said, what? What are you talking about? He goes, there's this device on every car that everyone has but nobody uses. I said, well, you've got to tell me what this is. What is it, under the hood? Is it a switch? And he says, no, it's called a turn signal. Now, of course, he said this because he was a police officer and he saw more people get into accidents because they change lanes and do shit without signaling. And I thought, that's what this is. You have a tool within you, a very simple tool within you that's always available, easy to use, free, natural, healthy, that can bring you back to a state of calm, centered consciousness. You just have to practice. So the neck, 3, 2, 1, release. Zone 5 is the shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. Just let them drop. Again, you're just looking for that slight release, that sensation of just, You're moving yourself into an expanded state, gently, slowly, gradually, calmly. The resistance you feel, the frustration you feel, and I know you do because I feel it every single time I'm feeling it now. Why isn't this happening faster? Why is this taking so long? Why am I not feeling it more? Is your body resisting the expansion? You want to stay contracted. That's fine. Keep pushing forward. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. Eventually your body will give way. Trust me. Deep breath. Deep breath. One more. 15 seconds of stillness and silence. Now, again, I mentioned it's important to note to yourself the changes that are occurring. I have the same experience every time I do this. I feel a lessening of the sensations of compulsion. I get within me a sort of what I call an I don't give a shit sensation. I stop caring so much about things. I detach from external processes, obligations, responsibilities, concerns, anxieties. I cut myself loose. I come back into myself. I feel comfortable just being within the moment. I care less about all these external obligations. I feel a greater sense of peace. Focus on that. Encourage that. That's where you're headed. Zone 6, the front, the stomach down into the waist. 3, 2, 1, release. Again, just looking again and again, over and over again for that sense of The muscles, 3, 2, 1, Turning off the power, my face, 3, 2, 1, boom. That's what you're looking for. Incremental, small, tiny releases of muscular tension. Sometimes there's a feeling of, if I let go of my tension, I won't be ready. I have to always be ready. I have to be ready. If I let go, then I might be caught off guard. I might be caught, vulnerable. I might be caught not prepared. That's fine. You're going to a place where you're not prepared for anything. You're going to a place where you're not concerned or involved in anything. You're just being. That's exactly where you want to go. Remind yourself, you're safe. You're in a chair. You've given yourself 15 minutes to a half an hour to do just this. So it's okay. You can easily go back to your contractions. Zone 7, now I've changed this a little bit. I used to say zone 7 was the back down into the pelvis, but now I made it 9 zones. The back is its own number now. The back, 7, 3, 2, 1, release. Now what does it feel to release the tension in the back? For me, monumental. I carry a lot of tension in my back. We all have our special place where we hold our tension. Some people, you can't even touch their back. They jump 10 feet. They're so sensitive. They're so wound up. So for me, the back is like that. I hold a lot of tension. I hold, again, that low-grade level of muscular tension throughout my body all day, every day, all the time. Just because instinctively my body feels like it has to maintain that state of readiness, which is not true. So we're going to explore letting that go. The back, 3, 2, 1. You might feel a sensation of sinking a little more deeply into your chair. We're not looking for major changes here. It's really important that you recognize that even the slightest change, remember, you can't contract and expand at the same time. If you expand at all, and by that I mean the release of muscular tension, you've moved the dial. In that moment when you expanded, you stop contracting. Now there might be lingering sensations of contraction, but they will begin to release. The back, 3, 2, 1. Take those breaths whenever you feel them. That's the body saying, I'm with you. Zone 8 is the pelvis. I gave it its own number now because the pelvis really holds a lot of tension. I'll repeat, for those of you who haven't heard me say it before, the pelvis is the area of sexuality and waste elimination. There's a lot of anxiety associated with those two processes for obvious reasons. Loss of control, embarrassment, all sorts of feelings which we maybe don't know what to do with or how to deal with. So if you can sense the tension in that area and release it, even the slightest amount, Again, you've gone a long way towards releasing your overall bodily physical tension. The pelvis. 3, 2, 1, release. And that might feel like sinking into your chair, like literally your butt's just kind of settling into your chair. Don't be surprised by the amount of tension you're carrying in your body, and don't be afraid to let it go. Don't be afraid. Just do it a little bit. Can you afford to let go of 1% of the tension in any of these muscle groups? You might feel uncomfortable, frightened, anxious by this process because you are releasing tension. You are allowing feelings and emotions to emerge. You might not want to deal with that. I will tell you this, feelings are only uncomfortable when they are emerging. When they are out and free in the open, they feel wonderful. When they're closed in deep within you, they can create a lot of problems. So let them out. The last zone, I'll now call it zone 9. Zone 8 was the pelvis. Zone 9, we go down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. And the feet, oh my God, if you can let go of the tension in your feet, the benefits are enormous. Think of your feet as these cast iron slabs that you are going to change into soft, fleshy pillows. The feet, just think about your feet for a second. And you'll notice that if you focus on an area, like the feet, sometimes you can induce a slight throbbing sensation in that area. What that is as you focus on the area, your body, feeling that, oh, he needs the feet now. That's why he's thinking about them. The blood vessels and arteries and veins will expand ever so slightly, increasing the blood flow to that area, as if on demand. That's a really good sign. If you can induce throbbing anywhere in your body, that's a sign your body is opening up and expanding. So think about your feet and see if you can induce that slight throbbing sensation as you transform them into these cast iron blocks to these soft, fleshy pillows. You're going to literally let go of the tension in your feet on my count. 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep breath. It may be only a very subtle, slight change, but if you can make that happen, it's a huge victory. The feet. 3, 2, 1, release. So now I promised I'd keep these sessions to a half an hour, so I'm going to wrap it up. I talked a little bit too much as usual today. Very quickly, set up the metaphor to start. Squeeze, release. Drop your hands, take 3 deep breaths. Sit in 15 seconds of stillness and silence. That's the preliminaries. You can do that as many times as you like. Deep breaths are the root of this technique. They literally shock your system out of a state of contraction and into a state of expansion. Take 20 of them. You've always got those moments of stillness and silence to get past the dizziness or the disorientation, and then see how you feel afterwards. You will be amazed at that basic step. Then we worked through the body, the muscular zones. Zone 1, the face. 3, 2, 1, release. Top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. That's that sensation. Back of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. The neck. 3, 2, 1, release. You're slouching, you're sinking, you're letting go. The shoulders. 3, 2, 1, release. The chest down into the stomach and waist. 3, 2, 1, release. The back. 3, 2, 1, let it go. Release. Slight change. The pelvis. Zone 8. 3, 2, 1, release. And that's sort of an unclenching experience, if I may be so bold. So be aware of that. Again, don't be embarrassed. Don't feel uncomfortable. You're just letting go of muscular tension. Muscular tension, by the way, is also exhausting. Holding that tension all day on a subconscious level drains you of a certain amount of energy. It's like having a leak in a bucket. It may be a small hole, but it's just draining your energy all day. When you free yourself up from muscular tension, it just frees up all that energy to do all kinds of other things. You feel better. You feel rejuvenated. Zone 9, down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. 3, 2, 1, release. Deep breath. One more. And another. 30 seconds. 30 seconds of stillness and silence. Deep breath. And that's today's session. So all we do is we come here and practice. That's all we do. and you will notice you'll get better. I do this myself on my own time. I do it here with you. I can't get enough of it. It's always frustrating for me. I always wish it would happen more quickly. I always wish I felt it more and it was easier, but I always get better at it. So keep practicing. Again, it's called scanning. You're scanning your body for muscular tension, but I spell it Sqanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical and ultimately emotional and mental calm. I come here every day, every 2 days. I try to come and do what I call my public sessions. I will repost this session immediately on my Facebook page for 24 hours, and then I move it over to the Sqanning page, which has all my previous sessions. Well, not all, but a great number of them for reference if you'd like to watch any of them. But you basically learn the technique. You know all you need to know. But if you want some assistance, if you want some company in practicing, I try to be there for you. And again, it's called Sqanning. And the main thing is, folks, is that we deserve to feel good at least once or twice a day. We deserve to detach ourselves from all these external concerns and anxieties we have, come back to a place where we feel at peace and calm, detached and complete within ourselves. It's who we are. And how do we achieve that? We expand. So I'll see you tomorrow. Rule number 1, love yourself. There's an infinite amount of love available in the universe. I don't know if you know that. So take as much as you need and give it to yourself until you are filled with love for yourself. You are what you were given. Love it. When you have so much love that there's extra and it's just spilling over, then take that extra and pass it around and give some to me and everyone else you know. We could all use it. All right, folks. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.